Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good morning and good evening. It's the Cryptid Huntress, and it is Memorial Day. And so happy Memorial Day. I know it's a solemn holiday. However, it is a day of remembrance for all of the service members who have fallen, who have lost their lives for our country. And I want to, first of all, thank all the veterans out there, everybody who's in our armed forces, even law enforcement, first responders, everybody. I love you guys. Thank you so much for your service and for all you have done and you continue to do. And yes, I actually have a veteran here in the studio with me today. We have Daryl James back today. I am so excited, y'all. I actually got in a pickle last week with my son's last week of school, and I aired one of my favorite interviews with Daryl on Wednesday while I was dealing with my son's last day of school. And so I was talking with Daryl last week, and we scheduled him to come on live today, and he's got some updates. It's been a while, actually. I think that aired several months ago originally, and so a lot has happened since then, y'all. A lot. And Daryl has some pretty good intel, and some things that he had predicted back months ago has actually come true, and it's come to pass. So we're going to get into a lot of that today, and much more. Okay, so thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you to any of my moderators who showed up. I'm so excited to have y'all in here today. And all my friends. And man, I did spend a good bit of time this weekend at the lake. We went to Alabama this weekend, and I spent some time with my family. We had, somebody's got a birthday coming up here. And so I wanted to give a huge shout out to my nephew and his girlfriend. I'm going to show y'all the cake they made for my birthday. It's my birthday, y'all. Not today, but it's coming up. And let's see. Let me show y'all this cake. This, look, homemade is the best made. Okay, and this was really cute. They made me a Bigfoot cake with an eyeball portal, they said. Okay. Listen, y'all, it's the thought that counts, and that was really thoughtful, and I appreciate that. Thank you to Jake and Miranda. Y'all are really sweet. And to my sister and everybody, my mom, everybody that was out there. It was a lot of fun. And also, I'm not going to be showing pictures of all of us on the boat, okay, because we're all wearing our bathing suits. I'm gonna spare y'all, okay, but I do want to let y'all see. This is Alabama is one of the most beautiful places. First of all, a very squashy area. This is around the Wedowee area, if you guys know where that is. And this is another one of those man-made lakes with a lot of Bigfoot activity out there. And so this is just a picture from behind the boat. I mean, it was like we had a private lake yesterday, y'all. It was great. I was shocked. There weren't more people out there, but it was kind of rainy and stuff. So, but anyways, it was wonderful. So thank you guys so much to my family and everybody that was out there this weekend. Okay. Oh, and I got a really cool shirt. It says National Park After Dark from my family as well. So, yeah. Okay. Well, enough about that, y'all. Let's get to our show today. We do have Daryl James here in the studio. And if you guys would like to check out the Cryptid Huntress, please go over to my website, thecryptidhuntress.com, to find all of my calendar events, things like that that's coming up. I do have a brand new event on the calendar in October. I will be at Cornwall 1828 down in South Alabama. Speaking of Alabama, speaking at a Bigfoot town hall down there. If you guys are interested in that, they're also having a Bigfoot expedition that entire weekend. We got a wonderful lineup of speakers. And if you guys want more information about that, go over to Squatch Fishing Outfitters with Sheila and Scott Granger, or to Cornwallis 1828. Y'all can find more information there. Okay. Or go to my website. It's all on my website. Okay. And let's see what else we got. Oh, and if you missed Saturday night show, mind-blowing, wonderful, fantastic, Brian Owens of BAO Bigfoot came on, and he showed us some of the most intriguing, fantastic pictures of Bigfoot, dog man, aliens, little people, everything on his property. Y'all know I don't show a whole lot of pictures on my shows too often, and his were fantastic. So please go check that out if you missed it over on YouTube. Okay, so so there's all that. Okay, let's get in our show, y'all. Let's see here. We're gonna be talking with Daryl today. Veteran and Secret Space Program super soldier Daryl James is here. We're going to talk about some current national, world, galactic events, and we're going to also remember our veterans or the people who have lost their lives serving our country today, and that includes Secret Space Program members as well. Okay, and Daryl and I recently, back in October, we were both speaking at the Timeline of Disclosure conference with James Rink, who has since passed away, and James did a wonderful job of remembering some of the heroes of disclosure, and we're going to discuss that a little bit today as well. And now James is one of those heroes of disclosure that we will remember today. Daryl D. James enlisted in the U.S. Navy on January 24th of 1999. He served 7 years, including 1 year in Iraq with the Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 7. And in 2003, while stationed at the Royal Air Force Base at St. Maugen in Cornwall, UK, he passed through what he thought was a metal detector. It was a piece of technology that measured every biometric signature he had, including his IQ, which measured at 195. He was soon recruited to join the Secret Space Program and guaranteed a position as a pilot in Solar Warden, the Starfleet that monitors our solar system. And after a miscommunication with a 9.5-foot tall reptilian, he was sent to mine on the moon. Oh my gosh, we've talked about that with him before. And his testimony is incredible. And you guys can find him over on his website. That's DarylDJames.com. All the links for the show today are in the description box. Please help me welcome to the show my buddy, Mr. Daryl James. Hey, Daryl.
Hello. Hi. Happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day to you too. And thank you for your service to our country. Thank you so much, Daryl. Absolutely.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you.
Of course, of course. Well, not only did you serve in the U.S. Navy, but you also signed a contract to go be in the secret space programs as a pilot for Solar Warden, which is just absolutely mind-blowing to me. And we have been getting so much disclosure coming out of, I'm going to say, our government since the last time I talked to you live on the show. What do you think about that?
Well, the disclosure going on right now, I mean, yeah, it's a lot. They're admitting what? That mantises, they have evidence of mantises, reptiles, Nordics, grays. I don't know if this is true, but I mean, I just saw it on Twitter, whatever. But they said that the CIA keeps tabs on Ancestry and 23andMe, and that there's, a lot of Nordics live in Colorado, is what I heard. But they keep tabs on all the ancestry and things like that to see if people have Nordic DNA. And it makes sense because their world looks like, the Rocky Mountains. I've said that in a past interviews. It's very mountainous, rivers, lakes, a lot of pines and things like that. So it makes sense.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a picture up right now.
And there's a picture.
Yeah. This is, I think, what was it? That Jesse Waters guy on Fox, I think, had kind of, he put this out there. We know there's certain news outlets and people who are assigned to leak the disclosure out and stuff and talk about it. Sometimes, I don't know, maybe it's for entertainment purposes only here. I'm saying this, but this is one of the charts that they put out to the general public, with the mantid being, the gray, the reptilian, the Nordic. And I mean, it's a step in the right direction, Daryl, I guess, right?
Yeah, for sure. But we have to watch out for our own world as well. Disclosure is a good thing, but things are going on right now in our own world, and I think that's important as well.
Oh yeah, it is very important. And you've actually been speaking out about your time in the secret space programs for years now. I mean, I met you probably 3-4 years ago at the Journey to Truth conference, and but you've been doing it way longer than that. And other people like yourself have been speaking out. I mean, this goes way beyond, your testimony goes way beyond just admitting that, there's 4 different types of ETs being found in these crashes. I personally may or may not know some people, or at least a person or two, who participated in some of those crash retrievals back in I'm going to say the 1990s or so, a long time ago. But the things they're showing to the public are like nowhere close to the things that are actually going on in this world, right? Or outside this world.
Oh yeah, it's like 2 different worlds. I mean, even the whole going up into a higher density, that in itself was explained to me that you're basically in a different world. Like going from 3rd to 5th density. I mean, you think government and musicians and movie stars and things like that, they would have, people think that they have access to these things, but I was told that they're not considered important enough as far as for the technology that they used on the 20 year and back with the age regression and everything else, and med beds and things like that. Not even politicians know these things exist. That's what a captain in the Navy told me, that when you join these secret space programs, the reason they wipe your mind is because they don't want you to know that it ever existed. And there are a group of actual officers who keep their memories, but they always have to have family so that their family could be used against them. But that's more of the negative forces, I would say. And I would say that those beings are being taken care of right now, and I have a lot more confidence in that because the things I was told are beginning to come true. And, I'm not a channel or anything, but this is just what a captain in the Navy told me. A man who claimed that he was from the year 2580 and came from a timeline where everybody looked like Mike Pence.
What? That's wild. I remember you saying that. I forgot about that. Everybody looks like Mike Pence. Ew, that's scary. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's what are those 2 aliens? There's 2 ETs that are the T. I forgot the numbers they are, but it's some letters and some numbers. And they say that one of them is from 20,000 years in the future, and the other one's from 30,000 years in the future. And they look, I don't know. That kind of disclosures come out a little bit as well. I guess they're grays or something.
Yeah, but I think that timeline is gone because I feel like that he came from that original timeline where everybody looked like Pence, and then maybe they eventually started looking like the Greys and things like that. I would say that this new timeline that we're on is something completely different, and maybe those beings still exist because they were protected by the fold of our timeline. Maybe that's the only thing. He didn't know why he was still alive. He said his timeline was gone. He didn't say it was collapsed or anything else. He said it was just gone, completely gone, and that his mission was accomplished. But he didn't understand why he was still here because his parents were gone, all his family was gone, and he had no idea why he was still here. But I feel like that timeline where people are going to evolve into Greys, where they just keep on hybriding themselves to try to get to a higher density. I think that's gone, and I think we're on a better track now. I think we're on a lot better than what his timeline was originally, which was nuclear war.
Oh gosh. Well, I feel like it's been kind of fun being able to speak about disclosure from my perspective. I'm a Bigfoot field researcher, and I go chase werewolves and dogmen in the woods and stuff, but I also have such a connection to the secret space program community as well, and the UFO disclosure community. And to me, this is a lot of fun to speak about my experiences and stuff like that. Now you've had kind of you've seen the darker side of the disclosure from your experiences, of course. But together with us just even talking about our experiences, I mean, I do some scary stuff. Okay. But I feel like we have kind of every day, we are actually actively participating in changing these timelines. And I think that's very special, just speaking out publicly about it and putting it into the collective consciousness, where we can go, where we've been, where we can go, and how to raise the consciousness. You know what I mean? And the vibration of this planet. So I commend you. And I know, to me, I'm having fun doing it. But I'm really proud of you for speaking out and telling the world about your experience.
Oh, yes, thank you. I mean, yeah, I believe that as well. I think we are changing this timeline in a more positive way, just, yeah, by bringing it up, by speaking about it, and getting people ready for what's to happen in the future.
What's to happen, Daryl? What's going to happen?
Well, I mean, some of the things I sent it to you, but about the United States joining many other Latin American countries to take on the cartels. That was one thing I was told about. You know, the United States would eventually declare war on Mexico, and declaring war on the cartels as soon as Mexico, and that right there is. I was been talking a long time that my executive officer Robert, he also said that 100 million people would be deported, and I brought this up, I don't know, a year or two ago, maybe 2 years, and yeah, Trump's DHS, his Department of Homeland Security, put that on True Social, and that was, I believe, New Year's Eve, America after 100 million deportations. And yeah, that was one of the things that he told me. I wasn't sure if I should bring that up because it's kind of sensitive, but I mean, he seems to always follow through with what he says. He says it, way back, like with the whole, we have to get rid of Sharia law. He announced that a year or two ago, President Trump did. And now we're in Iran, which is like the heart, in my opinion, of Sharia law, where modern Sharia law, I'm not saying that Sharia law never existed before that, but, where Sharia law came from as far as 1979 and beyond, because Iran used to be, women were allowed to wear dresses and bathing suits in the 60s and 70s in Iran, and then it just became very, oppressive, not just the women, but everybody. And it affected the entire Middle East. It affected Africa. It affected all these Muslim countries, and brought many horrible things back that, slavery and everything else, sex trade and things like that in the Middle East. And I think what they're doing right now is they're trying to stabilize Iran and the Middle East itself. They're trying to get rid of Sharia law. And the reason they're doing this is because of the 100 million deportations, because they're going to start sending people back to their homelands, to help build and repair their own countries and take pride, in their own homelands. And that's what I was told. And it seems like this is happening with the 100 million deportations that was posted on True Social, and also with declaring war on the cartels, which is the same thing as declaring war on Mexico. It's the same thing, because the cartels own Mexico and pretty much own Latin America, at least like central and the northern part of Mexico, of North America.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm going to share this other post too that you sent me, if that's cool. It says this was from March. I mean, this is interesting. I mean, the things that and I'm saying you predicted, but you were told these things. So it's not like, like you said, you're not a channeler, right? Like you were actually told things by someone from the future.
Yeah, like a man told me this in 2006 when I was getting out of the Navy. Yeah, like before I was getting out, and yeah, that's it right there. If you click on it, it has a little report. But yeah, I mean, I think it's 17 other Latin American countries the United States is teaming up with to just destroy the cartels. And there's that really high security prison. I forget what country that's in, but yeah, that's where they're putting all the MS-13 in. And I was in Honduras back when they used to actually call them mountain pirates. Gosh, when was I in Honduras? Before they were called MS-13, they were called, whatever the Spanish translation is for mountain pirate. Yeah, that was, I think it was 2001, maybe 2000. Yeah, and yeah, what they would do was we had to guard the Christian Children Fund, food convoys. We were also building like a hospital and a school for humanitarian. They were joining, like the North American kind of NATO kind of relate. We were building relations with Honduras at the time, and these mountain pirates, which then eventually became MS-13, were and they told us right away, like the local Honduran military, they said they're death worshippers, which was kind of scary. They said if you're ever captured, like if you're ever overrun, make sure you save a round for yourself because they're death worshippers and it'll last for days if they capture you.
Okay.
And we had to guard the Christian Children Fund, like the food, because they would steal the food and then they'd sell it for an exorbitant amount of money, and then they would use all that money to buy weapons and things like that. So they're ripping off their own people just to get weapons and get more power. And that was kind of like the infancy of MS-13, and I was actually in Honduras when it was in like its infancy.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, that's terrifying. I was actually just this is all for entertainment purposes only, everybody, today, okay? And but I was listening to this fellow that I'm acquaintances with now. He's kind of a well-known name. I was listening, was it Big Homie CC? Okay. And he's kind of some roundabout way has become, he speaks out on disclosure with a lot of stuff. He was a bodyguard for some very famous rappers and artists and stuff. And he saw a lot of weird stuff. Okay. And he was talking about the MS-13. A lot of them, I don't know for sure, but having some kind of satanic connection, and you said death worshipers. He was saying devil worshipers, what he said, but anyways, it's not pleasant. Okay. Whatever that is. And so I can only imagine, that had to have been pretty, you've had some.
Yeah. I know they worship like some sort of female deity that looks like Mary. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like a skeleton kind of female deity, like mistress kind of death. I don't know what it's called or anything, but
oh yeah. Well, my goodness. Well, it's interesting that from so long ago, 2006, you were told a lot of this stuff, and now it's come true. Finally, President Trump, even like about a week or two ago, was putting out, talking about True Social. He was putting out pictures of himself walking with large aliens on Area 51 or something. Did you happen to see those pictures? Yeah,
I did. I think probably soft disclosure, just kind of like joking to kind of get the public ready for the real thing. I think that's what it is, to kind of put something into the subconscious of the public, so that they're not so shocked when the real deal comes out, as they say. But I would call that soft disclosure most definitely. And that actually works. That was something that my XO, this guy Robert, captain in the Navy, he told me about that. That's how they do it. They call it soft disclosure. They just kind of put it in the subconscious of the public, and it makes it easier for the public to accept once it actually happens.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. The floodgates could potentially open up now, I think, now that, they've put it out there to the public. The people who always said that I was crazy. I remember my sister one day was like, Jessica was right about everything. and that feels good. Okay. It feels good. It's also kind of sucks that for so long, a lot of society has like looked at us like we're crazy. Right. So.
Oh, yes. And for me, it was just like, man, I was waiting for so long, and it got to a point where I had to forget about it. Like it would have driven me insane if and that was one of the things Robert was telling me, that he wanted me to go back into this density chamber. He said, you have to go back into the chair because it would have been able to wipe my memory again. And he let me know that, a majority of the people who have memories of the secret space program usually kill themselves within the first 6 months. So it was very difficult. And I had to get to a point just in my life where I had to let this go. And I when I left his office, I had a Post-it note of all the names of the different Nordics he told me about that I knew. And even when I was in Virginia processing out, I was reading that list every morning, when I woke up, and every night before I went to bed, I would take it out of my wallet, this little yellow Post-it note, and I'd read it. And it got to a point where after a week of doing this, I really was kind of driving myself crazy. And I just came to a point where I said, I have to forget about this. I can't survive this way, and I have to let it go. And, that was 2006. So that was a very, 20 years ago. And here we are 20 years later. So all these things are happening, after my 20 year back, after coming back from my 20-year back, or just getting out of the Navy, the regular, just, Navy, 20 years later. So for me, it was just like I was waiting. It felt like it was just like forever, and I didn't think it was going to happen, and I lost faith, and I was like cursing that man's name, and now it seems like it's happening. And I'm happy, and I'm positive, and I feel good about this, and yeah, I believe it's going to happen as he said it.
Patience is a virtue, Daryl, and that's something that I've had to learn the hard way, and it sucks. Okay, but you know, and you know what? And you made it, Daryl. You made it. You didn't. You pushed through. You embraced the suck. Okay, and I was just thinking about that this morning. I was like, God, how much have we all had to embrace the suck for so long? A lot of stuff, especially with not only the disclosure. But just to wondering if things are ever going to get better, if the truth will ever come out. And there's so many of us who haven't made it this far. We've lost a lot of disclosure advocates and people that have been in these programs who never got to see that this is actually coming to light finally. And the truth is out there. And it's not like they didn't die in vain by any means, but it's like, they didn't get to see that like the truth would finally come out one day. And I think that we should definitely be honoring all those people that were part of these programs that didn't get to see this day, and in our future as well with the future disclosure. So. Yes,
and not only people in the programs, but my XO also told me. I think he said it was the third or the fourth attempt. I think he said it was the fourth attempt. So it was a lot of people died trying to get this out. One of the major attempts was they were going to do it during 9/11, and that's why 9/11 happened, was because the Satanists freaked out. He explained to me that the World Trade Center had mini nukes in it. They didn't know, the positive aspect didn't know, and the size of a hockey puck is what he said. That they're not nearly as powerful as your regular nuke because they're so small, but it's enough to take down a building. And they had them planted when they put that building up. They already had it planted into the frame of the building. And the Satanists did that. They did 9/11 as a way to say, if you try to stop us, we have millions of these all around the world, and we'll set them off all at once. They basically were threatening to nuke the entire Earth. So the positive beings, he called them the Anglo-Saxons. They had to kind of stand back and wait, and try to figure out where all these bombs were, where all these nukes were, and all these placed all around the world. And yeah, I think he said it was the third or fourth try, and they would get caught, people would get caught, they'd be tortured, things like that. They would confess, they would turn other people in, they had to wait 10 or 20 years, they tried again, they got caught again, they had to wait 10 or 20 years. They tried again, the World Trade Center thing happened, and now this is the final time, and it's working, and it's working this time, and it's going to go through. So yeah, I feel very good and positive about everything that's happening right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess the stars are finally aligning, and I don't know if you want to call it divine timing or just the positive people that have been put into place to move us forward in a good direction, a good timeline. But we mentioned, and that is terrifying, by the way, what you just said. It's terrifying. I know I've talked to a lot of people behind the scenes that don't speak publicly about some of the programs they're doing and things that they're in. And I wasn't sure decades ago, at least a decade ago, that there were positive forces infiltrated into some of these dark projects and stuff, and that the light would win in the end. Okay. And that was going to be, I had no idea I would be a part of all this in some way, speaking about disclosure publicly and stuff and things. But anyways, speaking of our world leaders, someone in the chat asked about Donald Trump and the Trump family being time travelers. Okay. Well, I think you're a time traveler, Daryl. Okay. I think a lot of people are time traveling. What do you think about the Trumps being time travelers?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. He told me some things about Donald Trump. He just basically kind of said that, He said he was all right. That's kind of, he was just one of those people. He's like, he's all right. And he said that, and he kind of said he belonged to us. Like, he belonged to the positive aspect of the military. Like, you know what I mean? He's one of us, is kind of how he explained it. But yeah, definitely, I would say Barron Trump, his wife, and Donald Trump himself have all, been in these underground bases, have seen this technology, have seen looking glass technology, have used looking glass technology. Not to mention the whole, I think it was the CIA came in after Tesla died, and they took all his work. And one of the head members was one of Donald Trump's relatives, an uncle, I believe. I think it was. But yeah. So I would most definitely, he's a time traveler.
Oh yeah, they say that, I think it was President Trump's uncle was friends with Tesla or something, right? And got some of his blueprints after he died or out of a trunk. I don't know. There's a lot of stories going around about that, and of course, Barron Trump's supposed to be a time traveler too, and I don't know. I think there's so many more time. I think we're all time travelers, honestly.
He's awesome.
Yeah. I'm a time
He looks
traveler.
like an ET, so tall. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, we're living in strange times right now, and to be a normie must be really hard at this time. So just saying.
Yeah.
That's what I think. But let's see. Let me take a quick commercial break. I wanted to thank some of the audience we have in the chat right now. Ed Peters, thank you for being here. Thank you for becoming a member of the Hunt Club. Moon at Noon, thank you so much for that super sticker. I appreciate you. Also, Mike LIB, there's Ed. Hey, Ed. Long Island Bigfoot Mike, thank you for being a member for 2 years. Golly, thank you so much for your support. You're awesome, Mike. And he also gifted 1 Cryptid Huntress membership to a lucky audience member today. Thank you so much for that, y'all. Y'all are so awesome. I appreciate that. And Mike actually met me. We went up to Montauk. We were up at Camp Hero about 2 or 3 years ago. We had some weird experiences up there. And now, with you being in the Navy, going into the secret space program, Solar Warden, did that have any tie to the Montauk project at all?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, my XO, he went through so many different things. I was in his office for probably like an hour and a half or an hour, and he went through so many different looking glass and everything else he was telling me about. I'm sure the Montauk was real. Montauk was one of those. I actually knew about Montauk when I was in high school. Like, I knew a kid that actually had like the VHS of like the original like Montauk, recordings. This metalhead kid I knew when I was playing guitar and stuff. And we watched it like way back then in the 90s. But I mean, yeah, I would say Montauk is real, and just what they were describing with the chair, because that's a real thing. I mean, and I know people are kind of like, they feel like it's a joke because of Stranger Things and everything else, and they rip people's heads, as I said, soft disclosure. But yeah, that's like a real, like, these like UFO chairs and things like these chairs are real. Like the density chamber, it's all like a similar thing. And yeah, just to be able to create different entities and things like that with your own imagination, your own mind, and to be able to bring these into your own reality through this technology, this ET tech. I mean, that's a real thing, and that's 100% real. And yeah, I would say the Montauk Island is definitely legit.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Camp Hero. I was there. I was there with James, actually, James Rink, and I don't know if I ever told you about this, Daryl, but when we were at that radar tower, the security guard pulled up because we were kind of. I wasn't. I'm not saying anybody was trespassing, but security pulled up on us, and we were by that radar tower. Some of us were, and we remember. Half of us remembered a Caucasian male with the ponytail. And the other half of us, we were all standing there together. The other half of us saw an African-American man get out of that car. We were all standing there together, but half of us saw a white guy and the other half saw a black guy. And we didn't realize it until we got back to the house. And we were freaked out by that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
That's weird, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It probably just took on whatever you wanted it to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess so. I wanted to see a white man with a mullet get out, and everybody else. I mean, I don't know. It was just weird, but it
Mm-hmm.
just made sense that we're right there on top of where they were doing those teleportation experiments and time travel, and even the trauma-based mind control of all the children and the kidnapped people and whoever was there in these programs. So it's just a perfect recipe for a bunch of weirdness, I guess. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and places like that, they have the 5G tech, which is like, they can see you and they can hear you around areas like that. They also have cameras everywhere in areas like that. I remember we ran up like the hill of the underground base one time, in St. Maugen, just PTing, just as like a group of SeaBees. We all ran together. And like they did not like that at all. Like they saw us right away. We were like running over the mound of the underground base itself, and that really like ticked off like the command. The command was pretty upset about that. But yeah, we just did that just as like regular, Navy personnel, and yeah, we ran around the underground base, and they saw us immediately. And all the guys that like worked in the underground base were telling me like, yeah, we saw you guys running around on the mound of the underground base.
Uh-oh. Yeah, we were surely being monitored, I'm sure. And I mean it was interesting too, because when we were out on the bluff by the water over at Camp Hero, we were right by the ocean, and some of the people with us were saying they remembered being there as children and learning how to fly by jumping off the bluff over into the ocean. And they all remembered, a lot of them remembered jumping off that bluff and learning to fly. And that was one of the programs that they were in at Montauk. Was like, I mean, it's superhuman, superhuman type of stuff, almost like Marvel or the Avengers or something, like, I mean, I'm wondering, it makes me think that maybe a lot of these superhero characters are based off of real humans that had those abilities.
Could be. I mean, yeah, it could be. Especially, yeah, spider sense. I could see that.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know.
Yeah.
There is a Marvel character named Jessica Jones who is psychic. So I don't know. I think they based her off me. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, y'all. I'm kidding. But anyway.
Yeah. Robert told me. Robert told me that. What is it? Peter Quill, that guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, he said they based that off of me, is what he told me. Because, but he said the only thing we had in common is we both listened to oldies. He only listened to 70s. He said you listened to 60s and 70s. You both were pilots, and you both missed your mom. He said that was the only parts that were actually accurate to the movie. And if you see the last Guardians of the Galaxy, they do talk about things like that. That was from the very last Guardians of the Galaxy, and they bring that up. And I brought up how there are children underground bases and things like that. Pure White, which is where the song "Little Ghost" from the White Stripes comes from, because Jack White of the White Stripes is the main distributor of adrenochrome for the music industry, and because they're pale like ghosts.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. Yes, we talked about that the last time you came on. We were talking about the tragedy of all these children that have been either bred into these programs, which sounds terrible, but true, and or taken against their will into some of these bases and just drained of all this, what I like to call the Google Chrome, because it rhymes with that, but it's but drained of all that, and it's like, and isn't that weird that they would name Google Chrome? It sounds just like that, the A word. It's weird to me.
Yeah. When I was in the base itself, they were like Satanists. They were a British Army, and they drank at the bar on base. And I used to go to the bar on base just because they would get drunk. One guy I called him the Goon, and he would get drunk sometime, and he would tell me things like about a life that I didn't remember, because originally I didn't remember. I didn't have any of my memories of the secret space program when I first came back. I had weird dreams and nightmares. I had very bad clinical depression, which I never had before in my life. Things like that, but I really didn't remember. And this guy was just, he would name off names, bizarre names of people that I didn't know. And he said, you knew him then. And he asked me if I still play guitar, and I said no. And he's like, well, you could really play it then. And I remember one time I walked into the bar, and they were all standing like, in a circle, and they were speaking so fast. It was literally like the Micro Machines guy, like the guy who broke the world record for like speaking fast. That's how fast they were talking. And I said, what are you guys on? Are you on coke or something? And he looked, the goon looked right at me, and he goes, no, man, we're on chrome. And I said, what's chrome? And he goes, adrenochrome, you get it from kids. And I was like, what? And I didn't even know what like you don't think that that's like a real thing, like the way I was then when I was just a guy who worked construction. I didn't think that, any of this was real. So I just kind of blew it off.
Whoa. That's wild. And, thank you for sharing that, by the way. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that it's important, it's kind of like trickled out. Now, a lot of people used to be really hesitant to talk about that because we were getting censored and stuff for even bringing this up. But now it's kind of like it's out there more now, we've got firsthand experiencers who have come across it like yourself. And we need to talk about it. It needs to be put out there when it comes to the discussion of, the missing people and even the deep underground military bases as well. So I don't know. I'm just excited you're here to talk about it today. Colleen, I wanted to take a quick commercial break. Colleen, thank you for that super sticker. I appreciate that so much. Thank you for your support, Colleen. But yeah, so the people, it's not just like famous people that are using this. I call it Google Chrome. Okay. Not just famous people, but it's like people in the military and stuff, or people in the secret space programs. I mean, it's everybody.
Well, people in the secret space program, they have age regression. They're allowed to use age regression. So they're actually at a higher level than like musicians and politicians as far as this, who has what kind of, ability to access what technology, ET tech. So yeah, people in the secret space program, they don't need it because they have age regression and things like that. But yeah, I was told that's why they build the underground bases where they build them at is because the Earth itself is honeycombed. It's not, what they tell you, like mantle, outer core, inner core, crust, things like that. What you learn in Earth space science. It's actually honeycombed, and there's a star in the middle of the Earth, and where these caves are deep within the Earth, but they get closer to the surface of the Earth right where they put these underground bases. So, like with Cornwall, you have the Cornish cliffs, and the waves have been hitting the Cornish cliffs for millions and millions of years. They're like these sheer cliffs. And when there's low tide, like kids will actually go into these caves and they'll get lost and stuff like that. Whenever the tide goes down. And I was told that that's why they put the base where they did, because it had so many caverns from the waves crashing into the cliffs. And there's actually, I think it's St. Ives, like Land's End or something. It's the very tip of the peninsula of Cornwall. They can actually take a nuclear sub and navigate in these underground like rivers, because there's like and it's all naturally made from the waves crashing against the cliffs, and you could pop up in like a underground pond in St. Maugen, which is kind of like more in the middle of the peninsula. So you can actually like navigate like a nuclear sub through like these underground kind of rivers and pop up in underground bases and things like that with a nuclear sub.
Oh, whoa, that's wild. I was just thinking, like, with all these like nuclear subs and stuff, I mean, I hate to say this, but like, if I call them the E-files that were released, they're talking about like trafficking humans through submarines and stuff too. And we have all these submarine bases like in the middle of the country, like where there's no ocean. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, but that doesn't mean there's not these aquifers and things like water running underneath the land, right? I mean, is that what's going on? I mean, what's up?
Exactly. That is what's going on. Yeah, that's exactly it. There's like all kinds of the Earth is honeycombed, and there's rivers underground. There's like probably, very large lakes, almost like the size of oceans, very large bodies of water. And yeah, there's a sun, like an inner sun within the earth itself, I was told. And I was told I saw these things, but I really don't have a lot of memory of it. But he said you were in the underground. He said you've been to the underground, and but I just don't have a lot of memory of that itself. But yeah, like I'm sure there's all kinds of different submarine, like these underground pond, like lagoons that they can just pop up and they can just be in any underground base, probably in the United States.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. Well, there's plenty of them, and you know, it's I mean, when we think of underground, okay, here's like my primitive way of thinking, right? I'm thinking like, oh, underground for up until recently, the past few years, I've always thought underground would be like caves and dirt and maybe there's some bears underground or something. I know it's like that's just the way that I think. The way I used to think was like it's just animals underground. There's really nothing down there. That's not what my textbooks taught me in school. There could be something, maybe there's some facilities occasionally here and there, but Daryl, there's like full out, it's like a whole other world right beneath our feet, they say, and what you're saying.
Yeah, and they have those boring machines. I mean, and you could just find that on the internet, and they're round, they have a nuclear reactor in them, and I've seen them just run. And I think they only run at about 2 miles an hour, but they just run 24/7. So they eventually get there. They only go about 2 or 3 miles an hour, and they actually cook the outside of the cave that they're drilling out 3 meters. So it turns into solid glass. Oh no, I'm sorry, 1 meter, 3 feet, 3 feet thick of just solid glass around these like tubes they create, these tunnels they create. And this is just like normal. This is knowledge. This is something you can find on Google, and it actually exists. And they tell you that there's no point in once the nuclear reactor is like run out, they just leave it there. They just dig it a little hole for it, and they just leave it in the earth because there's no point in like trying to salvage it. It'd be more expensive trying to salvage it than leaving it there. But yeah, and they make this. You'll hear it sometimes like out in the fields of the Midwest and stuff. They make this weird kind of haunting, like metal on metal sound, like grinding metal, but it's very long and very loud. And like you'll see people with cameras and they can't find out where it's at, but you just hear like this very haunting, like metal on metal sound, and like out in the distance. And that's the sound that these underground like burrowing machines make.
Oh, yes. I've heard plenty of videos of people hearing that. And I knew a girl up in Tennessee who was having a lot of cryptid activity on her property. She said that at night, their bed would like shake and stuff, and it would like vibrate. Like there was a train going under there, or they were boring a tunnel under her house or something. And so that's a common occurrence as well, is people having, the ground vibrating underneath their house.
Yeah, like and here in Florida one time in my backyard, I heard like a weird like percussion, like a boom, but like big. It was huge. You could feel it, and you felt it like vibrate your chest. And yeah, like I've heard that before, and it felt like it came from like underneath the earth, like a loud explosion with a very heavy percussion.
Oh my gosh. Well, as long as the reptilians don't come flooding out of these holes and stuff, okay? I'm just saying. I wanted to bring this up because I was talking a couple of weeks ago with my good buddy. His name's Jimmy Payne, okay? He was good friends with James Rink as well. But Jimmy was talking about, he was actually good friends with Phil Schneider. And Phil Schneider was a whistleblower who ultimately lost his life after he was very vocal about some of the disclosure of boring holes in the ground for these deep underground military bases. He was a geologist, I believe, and he had a contract with the government. Okay, this is for entertainment purposes only, all right? But he had a contract, and part of his testimony, he talked about the Dulce alien war, and he lost his fingers. He said that he had part of his hand was taken off by a laser, I think. They were boring a hole for this deep underground military base. I think it was at Dulce, and they bored into, I guess you could say bored into, like a place where the ETs were, and they came out fighting, and so, I mean, it sounded so crazy back then when he first came out. Not to me, it didn't, but a lot of people were like, it was unbelievable that could happen. But he was missing his hand, part of his hand. And up until his very last days, you know, he gave one of his last testimonies or lectures he gave, was pretty profound. Okay. And I think that it'd be great for people to go back and listen to his testimony from back then. I mean, that was in the early 2000s, I think, or the 1990s. I can't remember. Before he was found dead. They said, I think they said that he had self-deleted, but I think that there was some funny business going on there. So he was.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I've heard of that too. Yeah, it sounded like they bored into like an existing like tunnel, like a honeycomb. Like I was told, like they actually hit one of these like these natural existing tunnels that are already in the earth. But yeah, Phil Snyder was like one of the best, and I'm pretty sure that yeah, they probably took him out. I mean, suicide is always one of those things that it's just yeah, I rarely believe it when it comes to somebody like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, it's I call it dangerous disclosure. Okay, disclosure is very dangerous. I was actually warned pretty soon, like right when I started speaking publicly, and I didn't speak publicly for at least 10 years about the Bigfoot stuff ever. I didn't want to. I had no business doing it. I didn't want, you know, it was nobody's business what I was doing in the woods. But for whatever reason, the stars said it happened, and I'm speaking today about it. Okay, but I've always called this dangerous disclosure because I mean I was warned. You know, once you start speaking out, you get on a radar. Okay, and you start getting watched, and you know people will be sent in to you know sway you and handle you and all this kind of stuff. I mean, and I don't know. I can't say that I've completely, you know, gotten that full. What do you call it? I guess I haven't really experienced all that. Okay, I don't think, but I think I may have too. So I don't know. It's kind of up in the air, but it can be dangerous. And I've watched some of my best friends have passed away. Some of them under very mysterious circumstances, who were speaking out on things like dogmen and Bigfoot and secret space program, Daryl. And so I don't know. You know, like myself, I tell people, you know, you don't live in fear of this, you know, and there's a reason that we're speaking out. And I don't know. Sometimes I question. I'm like, maybe I don't know. Talking about this remote viewing and stuff. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? I think it's worth it. Okay, I do think it's worth it. And what? How do you feel?
Oh, I mean, I don't. I rarely think about it. Like I don't worry about things like that. That happens. It happens. I mean, I feel it's more important for me to let people know that this is real, and that I hope that all these different events that have transpired that, you know, prove what my XO was telling me is real. Like the things that I've talked of, everything, it proves to me that what he told me is real, because I didn't even know if what he was saying was real. I had no idea. Like, he could have just been playing a trick on me. I really didn't know. But it proves to me that what he was saying was real, and it proves to me that, you know, what I'm doing, what everybody else is doing, you know, it matters. It matters to let the public know what's actually happening, what is going to happen in the future, and what to prepare for. So yeah, I think it's worth it.
I do too. Okay. Well, here's another thing. Now, this is all anonymous. I'm not going to say who said this or whatever. Okay, but I have a friend who works in a medical facility who told me that they had a patient that came in, and the patient confided in this person that I'm a super soldier. People don't believe me, but I was in these, you know, covert black ops programs and stuff, and people think I'm crazy. And it was like confiding in him about this, and the person I talked to wasn't really sure how to take that. Okay, well, they felt compelled to tell me about it because, you know, well, first of all, I work with people and friends. I have friends who have been part of these secret space programs. Okay, now I know that this could be real. Okay, but there's a lot of people out there that do just throw people in a psychiatric ward or something like that when it comes to this. And I'm only saying this because this is happening, and there's someone that I know personally who's experienced this, where they had a patient that came in claiming to be part of these programs, and nobody would believe him. I don't know. What do you say about that? Daryl, and do you have you
Well,
heard of that?
I've talked about it at the VA. Like, I actually had a very, very good doctor one time, and he was military. He was an Army officer, so he like actually believed me. Like, he said the way he explained it to me was I got to a point where I was telling him everything, and he was just listening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think I'm crazy, or do you think I'm telling the truth? Like tell me what you think. And he said, well, a part of me thinks this is a way to deal with your trauma, but a larger part of me believes you. And is delusional. He described it as water going through a colander. Like, when they start speaking, they just start babbling. And he said, like, that's how you can tell when somebody's delusional. He said, when somebody's being truthful, they go back and forth in their story, like you. He like the way he described the way I'll talk about something, and then I'll say, oh, but I forgot about this, and I'll go back, and then I'll go back to what I was talking about. He said that's how you can tell when somebody's being, like, actually going through recall, is because they jump back and forth in their story, because they'll forget different parts, and then they'll go back to what they were talking to begin with. So yeah, I've like talked about it openly at the VA before, and like nothing's happened to me. And like I said, like, I think because he himself was in the Army, and he the military just kind of uses you up, in my opinion, a lot of times, and they just kind of throw you away. And he understood that kind of like feeling that, like, a lot of veterans have with, like, after getting out of the military, and that sense of just being like used up and thrown away. And so he could kind of see that happening. And yeah, he it sounded like, a larger part of me believes you, is how he put it.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes you wonder. It does. And, and I had Desiree Foley. I know you've probably met Desiree back she was at the Journey to Truth conference when I met you, actually, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she, what is that? She's with Mind Nexus. And they have some really cool technology where they're actually they're able to, like, measure frequencies coming off of people and stuff. And they're, they say that's actually a way for, some of the people who have been victims of, like, being targeted, like targeted individuals. There's a lot. I think we're all targeted individuals, Daryl. I think all of us are, the entire population of the world. But I do, but they're able to, like, test for, like, frequencies coming off of people, see people have, like, chips in them and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. She did come on the show with Barry Littleton a while back, and we had a great conversation, and I did some remote viewing for her, actually, on some of these things. And so I think that there are resources out there today. Is it Jesse? I think is one of the guys she works with. He was on Alex Jones' show recently a couple times. He was just on there last week, I think. But this is becoming more mainstream to talk about, to have ways to test people if they feel like they're being targeted. I was just watching something about, a friend of mine sent me something about people who are hearing, what is that called? Schizophrenic. People that have for years been hearing voices in their head. And now, there's not been a good explanation other than, there's the chemicals are off, right? The chemicals are off. But really, we know now there's all this frequency technology and stuff where people voice to skull technology, Daryl, where people may have been targeted. Maybe they weren't always just crazy. Maybe they were targeted individuals by something bigger.
I had a friend at the VA, and he had to take psychiatric medication because, he saw things, but he described exactly what Max Spears talked about. If you know him, he's like English, like a British guy from years ago. But he said he would see, like, spiders with, like, human, like, faces that would, like, talk to him and things like that. And that's what he would see, like, spiders that had, like, high pitched squeaky voices that would talk to him. And that's exactly what he described, was kind of like the same thing Max Spears talked about. And they're almost like these things that kind of spy on you. They come out of the wiring. It's like how Max Spears described it, out of your television, out of your computer. And some people can see them and some can't. And I kind of think that schizophrenia is just basically, those people, a couple thousand years ago, those people would have been shamans, you know what I mean? Like schizophrenics, because they could see, like, the spirit world. They can see like what we can't, and that's kind of what I think. A lot of schizophrenics is that, and our society casts them out, so they don't know how to handle it. They don't, and society itself doesn't know how to handle it. So I kind of think that's what that is just like people that are actually kind of tapping into, I don't know, maybe a lower fourth, like astral plane kind of spirit world realm.
Oh my gosh, that actually reminds me of my sister and I were having a conversation on the boat yesterday. We were out in the lake, and we got into we were talking about children having autism, and she was like, well, and I knew that she had been watching the telepathy tapes. Okay, so I haven't seen those yet, but I've heard all about them, and they're actually almost like classifying like children who are autistic as like just being telepathic. Okay, and having that ability that a lot of people don't understand, like they're actually, and like maybe even being targeted with some of these, dare I say that, the ouchies, if you know what I mean, those programs, like, and you get so many of them when you're young, and maybe, I mean, we just went down some rabbit holes yesterday, she and I, but it's almost like changing the perspective on it of stuff, changing the perspective on people with schizophrenia, changing the perspective on just having another outlook on it. Even, I mean, I see people in the chat right now talking about witches. Okay, I see y'all's conversations, y'all. Okay, and some like not all witches are bad and stuff. Well, you said that maybe back in the day some schizophrenics might have been people, classified as schizophrenic might have been shamans. Well, modern day witches could be just healers. You know what I mean? And it's just like changing the perspective on things, and watching your labels, y'all. Watching the labels. That's all. So times are changing, Daryl.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I kind of have on that. Like, I mean, my dad described his mother, which I never knew. Every time we watched Wizard of Oz, he would always, like, whenever the Glenda the Good Witch would come up, he would always kind of point out to us as kids, like, see, there's good witches too. And she was like, he called her like a bone setter. She was like a midwife. She could stop bleeding right away, things like that with direct pressure. She would say prayers under her breast, and she could just like put direct pressure on a wound and stop bleeding like immediately, the way he described it. And like, yeah, they grew up, he grew up in like Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania and things like that. And it's kind of common, even with the Amish and things like that over there. And I think a lot of like Pennsylvania, a lot of the people learn things like that from the Amish, because the Amish are kind of almost like a witchcraft. They put hex signs on barns and things like that. And they actually still have like witch trials where they don't hurt the people, but they make them confess that they've been doing stuff and things like that.
Oh my gosh. Well, I did not know that. I need to look into that. That's wild. And to each their own, y'all. Okay. And also I was reading an article just yesterday or this morning, I can't remember. And it was talking about how we have light emitting from our fingertips, and that we can have, it's like magic hands, and it's like this energy that comes off of our hands, our fingertips. And that, there are people who do practice Reiki and healing and healing hands. What is that called? Like where you lay hands on people, and, the Pentecostal Reiki and primitive Baptists do it, and you lay hands on somebody and it heals them. Well, is that not witchcraft? I'm just saying. It depends on how you interpret it. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He described like one time him and his brother or his siblings were playing by a lake, and I guess one of his brothers stepped on a piece of glass, and it like cut his foot open to the point where like a flap was hanging out off his foot. And it was just bleeding like really profusely. And she just came up and like put her hand right on it and just put direct pressure and said like a prayer under her breath. She like, whispered something under her breath. And she only held it for about 3 or 4 seconds. And she let go of it like really gently. And it stopped bleeding. And she just like, picked them up and walked them back to the house and then cleaned out the wound and stitched it up. And that was like one of the stories he told me about. She'd collect cobwebs off the basement, off like the roof of the basement and things like that. And I guess cobwebs are very good for clotting and things like that for wounds. She knew about all the different like bone set. There's like something called bone set that grows, which is good for like parasites and good for different pains. It looks like a dandelion. So yeah, she knew all the different kind of like, weeds and things that actually had healing properties, and she knew how to use them.
Oh my gosh, we need to come back to that. Well, I said last week on one of my shows, I said, well, we all need to learn to be more self-sufficient. Okay, when it comes to all these big corporations and maybe that was on my hunt club video, I think, but it's true. We need to learn all these techniques and learn these natural remedies and stuff, because the state of the world, everything's out to get us. Okay, we are not humans are under attack in so many different ways, and it's up to us. Nobody's coming to save us, y'all. You got to save yourself. I'm just saying. And we can all be here for each other, of course, but we've got to go back to the old ways, right? The old ways. I don't know about pulling out cobwebs. There's a reason that I haven't dusted in a while. It's probably because I need to go grab some cobwebs in case we have an attack or something, or we get a cut. That's my excuse now. That's my excuse.
Yeah. Lamp black was he always talked about lamp black, which is, I guess, like when they used to use kerosene lamps in the black, she would wipe the black on like white candles and turn them black, and it was like to keep away like evil, like keep away rumors is kind of like how he said it. She would take white candles and like rub the lamp black on white candles and turn them black and burn them.
Ooh. Well, it's like alchemy or something. That's cool. And I mean, and of course, that to us that's known as being superstitious and things like that. And Engineer says hex signs are made to drive away evil, including cryptids. Yes, that's true. And I mean, you go into Appalachia, okay, into the mountains. I spent a lot of time up there. You'll see, I don't know what those quilt designs mean. I don't know. Is that some kind of is that to ward off evil? I'm not sure. On a lot of the barns, I mean, you'll just see stuff that in Appalachia, up in the mountains, you need something to protect your home. Okay, you do, because it's scary out there. Can be. Lots of critters out there. But anyways, yeah, but I just want everybody to know your hands are powerful. We have no idea how powerful we are as humans, Daryl. And if people just knew how to harness their psychic abilities, okay, telepathy that we're all capable of doing, all the stuff that has been replaced by modern day telephones, internet, all that kind of stuff. If we just got rid of all the false stuff and went back to, actually using our telepathy and using our psychic abilities, using our healing power of our energy in our hands, this world would be a much different place. And we may need to do that soon. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we need to. And I think probably a lot of this technology is inhibiting, not only that, they put fluoride in the water, they poison the food, so it calcifies your pineal gland, takes away your third eye and things like that. And, just all the 5G towers and all this, all these signals going out. I think it's all to kind of like keep us away from our true potential. I would say a lot of the vaccines and things like that, I would say is the same thing, to keep us away from our true potential.
Exactly. Yeah, because listen, when we figure out how powerful we are, that's when everything changes. That's when everything changes. And that's where, for those people who are not here with us anymore, who are especially, people who are speaking out in the disclosure communities, including even David Wilcock, who passed away recently as well. Once we, it takes a lot to get out there and to harness our own power, okay, our individual powers, and to even get the courage to speak out about things that we've experienced when we know the world's going to look at us like we're crazy. Okay, some of the people will, and so, a lot of people died. I'm not going to say it. It's true. They died, speaking out about this kind of stuff, and I hope that hearing your testimony today, Daryl, about you were told this decades ago, literally a couple decades ago. You were told about some of the things that are happening today, and you waited patiently to see this come to fruition, to see the disclosure of these things, and to watch as things seem to always get worse before they get better, right? That's what it feels like.
Oh yeah, always darkest before the dawn, as they say. Yes.
Yeah. Well, where do you think we're going in the future? Like, how much longer is it going to be before we get full disclosure? Will we get full disclosure in our lifetimes?
I mean, I think so. I don't know about. he was kind of iffy on ETs and things like that. But I mean, he said they're going to use their own black magic bullshit against them, and so like their different satanic high holidays and things like that. And I think the 250th anniversary of the United States is like going to be a big milestone. I think we're going to, after 4th of July, I think things are really going to start speeding up because, you know, there's just something about whatever, astrological, tarot cards, or, you know, they believe in this stuff. And he's like, we're just going to use that all against them. Like all their high holidays, we're just going to use that all against the Satanists. And we're going to take their, you know, their black magic bullshit and use it against them. Those were his exact words. So yeah, I think, you know, the 250th anniversary of the United States, I think after 4th of July, I think a lot of things are going to pick up.
Ooh, so we're going to be in super soldier fast forward mode, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I've met so many people who claim to be part of these programs and stuff, and getting to know a lot. I mean, listen, I know a lot of people, okay, and I speak at I speak at the same conferences you do, for the most part. Not all of them, but some of them, and there's some very dynamic people who have come forward like yourself, with which, oh man, it's amazing hearing about this stuff. But I think that, you know, and there's also people out there that like, or can be a little questionable sometimes. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, I was part of this and that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm not saying they weren't, but it's kind of like, okay, you know, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of people, there's a lot more people involved in these programs than anyone could ever imagine. Okay. And go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, whenever I was first introduced to the program by the petty officer of the watch, like there was a first class petty officer that like introduced me to everything pretty much. Mm-hmm. And when he saw my scores, my IQ scores from the scanner I walked through, which everybody had to walk through when they went to the underground base, and he showed me my scores. He asked me, he said, "Were you homeschooled?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, I guess you just slipped through the cracks." And you know, that was his thing. And so it seems like they try to pick them up when they're very young. And I remember Robert explaining to me that even the positive beings do that. Like even Solar Warden, who's more of a positive aspect, because if the negatives are going to do it, if they're going to get beings while they're young and be able to make them even more like powerful, I guess you would say, with their abilities, with being able to look down timelines and everything like that, be able to predict the future. He said that, you know, the positive has to do it as well, you know, but they're not as cool, you know, like you're going to get things like having your, you know, your liberties taken away and things like that, kind of like military punishment. Like if you act up and things like that, they're not going to like torture you. I've heard people talk about Solar Warden, which is just as bad as the Dark Fleet. And even Robert himself said, yeah, people think that, but that's like nonsense. He's like, but we have to like do it. We have to do the same thing that the negative beings are doing. We have to find like children that have a lot of potential, and we have to like try to get them early and start putting them in these programs early, because we have no choice, because we'll lose if we don't. You know what I mean? Like we'll lose to the darkness, we'll lose to the negative. So they have to kind of like pick these kids up. And, you know, if you get put into these more positive programs, it's a lot better, you know. I remember for myself, like, yeah, Solar Warden was miles like better than Dark Fleet, like way better, like as far as like your rights as a human being. But yeah, he said since the negative does it, we have to do it too. We have to keep up with them. We have no choice.
Yeah. Daryl, it's not all love and light. Okay. And I know a lot of people that are like coming into their spirituality and their spiritual communities and stuff. It's like you're not going to beat all these dark forces with just love and light. Okay. You got to understand the dark side too. And I know there are people out there that are going to twist exactly what I'm saying out of proportion and make me sound like I'm saying something bad or like, but you know, you got to embrace the shadow as well. Okay, when it comes to this, and I'm learning to be more aware of that, and to understand the darkness, and you know they do. I have noticed this with most people that I know. A lot of us who do have a positive attitude about things have seen the darkest side of life, and that includes yourself, Daryl. And because you do have a wonderful positive outlook on stuff, and I love that. But you've also seen the darkest of the darkest nights. out there. And so, you know, there's got to be a balance. I think you do hold that balance very well. And like a lot of the people who are speaking out and have a tough skin to be able to do this kind of stuff, and to hold the line, because you're a front line, okay, to hold the line and to give us hope as well, because, you know, a lot of us are looking for hope. Daryl, it's like, this has been dark as hell. You know, the days have been dark, and we need some hope to know that this is actually going somewhere. We're going to get some justice one day. Okay.
Oh yeah. What is life is hope. I mean, that's the way it goes. And and I think we're going to be seeing some incredible stuff. I think, like, later on this year. Like, I think we are after the 4th. I think they're really going to start picking up what is already happening right now. You know, finding out all this corruption. They're finding out politicians are doing this as well. I think it was a woman from Virginia, a politician from Virginia, just got caught doing, like, I don't know, hospices or you know what I mean, like retirement homes, and, you know, just taking millions and millions away and things like that. You have all these politicians. Yeah.
Learning centers. I don't know.
Yeah, learning center. Yeah, and all this stuff. It's all getting uncovered, and it's just like, no, we can't deal with this. Like, you know, and I think people are waking up and just be like, no, these people have to go. Like we can't deal. We can't get to the stars if we're just like getting ripped off all the time. So we have to, like, you know, we have to trim the fat, you know, and that's just the way it is, and you know, make it to the stars.
Okay, I have a question for you. What are all these data centers doing? Like, should we be worried? I mean, I'm worried about this, like, because, you know, there's the AI has been around for probably ancient, right? But what's going on? Is this just more like a control grid to, like, kind of like a transhumanist, like, AI takeover kind of? I mean, is this one of the final straws of losing humanity?
I don't know. I mean, I in that sense, like, I'm not that worried about it. I mean, in a sense, we kind of are in an AI already. I mean, as far as if we're actually tapping into what this AI is, then I don't think that's a problem. Maybe that's what they're doing right now. They're trying to tap into the AI matrix that we're kind of caught in right now. I mean, that was one of the things I was told. We're in a program. We're in kind of like this simulation kind of program, and maybe that's what this is for. And I was told one of the main AIs would be like, it would be to make sure every vote was real, and every vote came from an actual person, a legitimate person, and there'd be almost like a priest class, and that would be like our politicians that would make sure this AI was working properly. And that would be, and we would pretty much vote on everything. Like, we would vote, it wouldn't just be like little things here and little things there. We wouldn't have politicians that were just worried about getting votes, so they were putting as many people into our country and giving them free stuff, so they would vote for them, which is what's happening right now. And it's just ridiculous and childish. But we're going to get to a point, because people didn't agree with it. Nobody in Europe agreed with this. Nobody in Britain agreed with this. Nobody in the United States agreed with this. They just did it anyways, and they didn't care, and they didn't ask. They didn't vote. Nobody had a vote for this. They just, you know, put, you know, all of Somalia into Minnesota, and they didn't care. And it's not going to be like that anymore. And they're going to have an AI that's going to, you know, make sure every vote counts, and there's all votes are legitimate, and we're going to vote on everything. Like, and you'll be able to do it probably from your smartphone, and then this AI will be able to figure out if it's a real vote, if it's a hack vote, is this a legitimate vote? And like I said, like the people we would actually vote for would be almost like a priest class, and there would only be like 6 or 7 of them, and they would make sure this AI computer would work properly and would always work properly. And that was what I was told about AI from Robert. But I mean, as far as like what we're seeing right now, I think AI, it could just be to try to tap into the matrix that we're already in anyways. We're in a program, an AI program to begin with. So maybe they're just trying to figure it out. I would say that's probably, in my opinion, what that would be.
Yeah. Man, that's amazing. Yeah, we do. We live in the matrix. We're trying to break out. Okay, some of us, but I don't know if that's 100% possible. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm having fun. I'm having fun with my character. Okay.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I don't know. It is wild, and man, some of these predictions and stuff, and it's so funny because before we even went live, you're like, "Well, I'm no channeler," with this. You've just been told some stuff, and so thank you for sharing that with us today, Daryl. I really appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing what else you've been told that comes true in the future as well. If you'll have to keep us updated, okay? Please.
Okay. All right, I will.
Sure. For sure. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic, and of course, before we go today, Daryl, I mentioned earlier in the show, you and I had been to the timeline of disclosure, or what was it was a Super Soldier Activation Conference with James, okay, and that was back in October, and James did a wonderful job. He really wanted to honor those disclosure advocates and people who had spoken out about the secret space programs and other communities and who had passed away. And we're going to have to unfortunately add James, fortunately and unfortunately, James to that list as well. But I wanted just to honor James today. I had a picture. I took a picture of the screen when they were doing this honor, what do you call it, honorarium, I guess, or just a remembrance. It says honoring our timeline of disclosure heroes. And so I wanted to pull up that picture of all the people that James was honoring that day. And so there's a lot of people, authors, UFO disclosure advocates and ET super soldier programs, all that are right there on the screen. And so I just wanted to honor James. And I think I've got a picture of James right here while he was up there reading off some of the names and stuff of some of the heroes of disclosure, as he called them. And I wanted to remember James today. And I do miss James very much, y'all. And so, it's not, we're honoring our fallen veterans today, the military and even law enforcement, first responders, everybody, but there's also a secret space program as well, Daryl. And there's a lot of people, and even a lot of these dark projects, like the Montauk Project, where a lot of people lost their lives, a lot of children as well. And so I think it's important we remember them as well. So thank you so much for being here with me today, Daryl, and thank you for your service to our country and for being a disclosure advocate.
Yeah, James was a good guy. He was a true soul, and he's in a better place now. I believe that.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, he was a good friend, and he had a good heart, and he did a lot for the disclosure of the secret space programs, and so yeah. So rest in peace to James, and also I wanted to I had two other military veterans who were some of my best friends, Jeff Townsend and Mark Maychek, who passed away Mark just recently passed away. Both cryptid disclosure advocates as well, and have been on the show and were good friends of mine, and so I want to remember them today as well. Okay. And so Daryl, where can everybody find you? Tell them about your website, or if anybody wants to, and you need to write your book. You better come, if you haven't published it yet. You better.
Yeah. I have to edit it. Yeah. I'll be doing that probably in June. I'll get the editing done in June. But my website is DarylDJames.com, DARYL, D as in Delta, James.com. And I think I've seen it at the ticker tape at the bottom a few times.
It is. I got you covered, man. And we got a link in the description box too. If y'all want to go click on his link. And as soon as his book is published, it's going to be on his website. I promise y'all. You better get it published. I'm going to stay on you about it. Okay. And
all right.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that you do speak out, and I'm glad to call you a friend, Daryl. Thank you so much for being my friend too.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Okay. Well, will you please come back and see us again soon, and come back and we'll do some more updates in the near future.
Sure.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. Well, I wanted to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you to all the audience. You guys are awesome. And I want to thank Colleen, Mike LIB, Moon at Noon, and Ed Peters. You guys, and let's see. Yeah, Colleen, thank y'all so much for being members of the Hunt Club, and for your anniversaries, for gifting memberships, and for the donations today. Y'all are so sweet. And I hope everybody has a very wonderful and safe Memorial Day today. And yes, please come back and see me on Wednesday. I'll be back on a glitch in the Matrix at 1 p.m. Eastern. So y'all be there or be square. And thank y'all for spending your holiday with Daryl and I today. it means the world to both of us. Okay. And so y'all, I will see y'all back here on Wednesday. Daryl, have a wonderful Memorial Day. And again, thank you for your service. And we'll see y'all next time. All right, everybody. Bye.